Hello and welcome. My name is Quavel and I am a Minecraft Bedrock Redstoner and add-on creator. Here is my third part of my tour of my puzzle map, the Mortland Mystery. Today we shall visit Mort Mountain. Now this was my third area and I built it last year, so it has some of my latest redstone. It is probably my largest area because I hollowed out the entire mountain in preparation. This allowed space for some of my largest puzzles. Before I show you some redstone, I'll give a quick tour of the mine maze. The idea had started as a 3D maze with paths going vertically and horizontally. I've used a few mazes in the puzzle world, each using a very different style. But one tip, if you're making your own maze, then give the player the perception of progress. If every corridor or path look the same, then players will quickly tire or feel that they're going in circles. Either keep the maze short, or give some indication that they are reaching closer to the goal. The mine maze starts off a little similar to the mines in Minecraft, but I have added many distinct rooms. When the player reaches an unfamiliar room, it is clear that they're on a new path. In addition, to keep it interesting, there's also a few different paths to the goal, not just the one. Staying near the bottom layer of the mountain is another of my largest areas. This is probably the largest redstone puzzle throughout this world, but it's mainly the same circuit duplicated several times. When you look at the room below, you can see the sections, with one button in each. Pressing this button rotates lights in the ceiling above it. The puzzle requires the player to connect the lights from one side to the other. This was my first prototype. The button is on the column, and when I press it, the grid at the top rotates. You can see the process when I go up. The power from the button is fed into 4 sticky pistons which detract when the power drops. Then an observer triggers 4 more pistons which push the block back into the cross pattern. The redstone blocks in the cross power the redstone lamps below. Later I realised there was a subtle flaw in this technique. It's not obvious to the player that the blocks are rotating. We're not seeing anything physically move. Here I devised an alternative method where the blocks are pulled up. We can see that they are rotated and then they push down again. The process takes a little longer, but still completes by the time the button pops back out again, so there's no need to make it faster. From the top, we can see that there's constant power going to the downwards facing sticky pistons. Pressing the button breaks the power and they retract. Then I have 4 observers picking up this action and firing the remaining pistons that work the same as before. I'm very pleased with this design. It is no larger than my original concept. The next step was reading the pattern so I could connect each element of the grid together. Now ideally I would have used pistons to move the redstone dust, but this is not possible. So instead I had to use command blocks. They copy the pattern below into the dust above. My next problem was that redstone dust can only power up to 15 blocks without a repeater, and repeaters are unidirectional, which wouldn't be helpful in this puzzle. So I devised a bidirectional boost in the small space provided. To demonstrate, if you've ever tried to build a line of redstone dust that needs to send power in both directions, but it's over 15 blocks long, then you would have probably hit this problem. Simple logic suggests putting in 2 repeaters, each facing the opposite way. But the problem is that this creates a loop. When I turn off the power at either end, the redstone stays powered. You can see the output from one repeater is looping round into the other, keeping both powered. So this was my own solution, and the one I used for the circuit. Power comes into the piston and moves this block. Meanwhile, the power passes through the other block to the other side. The power cannot loop back as this block has now moved out of the way. Unfortunately, this method is a bit bulky, and I did find out later some other solutions that would have been easier to use. Back to the prototype, and you can see that I have reconfigured my own bidirectional boost to fit the gap between each section. I can demonstrate this by switching the lever here. The signal runs across to the other side. Likewise, I can power it from the other direction. From here, it was a case of repeating the structure on a grid and using different patterns for the lights in each to create the puzzle. By rotating any section, I can change the flow of the lights. Note that sometimes my bidirectional booster glitches, giving this short flash. I chose to keep this in, as this gave a an effect similar to turning on a fluorescent tube light. And here is my falling powder puzzle. This uses extremely simple redstone with just buttons and pistons. You need to gain access to the chest by pushing the concrete powder in the correct order into the spaces below. Though this part is simple, if the powder is pushed in the wrong order, you will need to start from the beginning. And the simplest way to achieve this was to use command blocks again. In this case, I have used a clone command to copy in the entire structure from behind the puzzle. And there are more clone commands here to drop fresh powder blocks in place. I decided to make one of them using a copy of a trial chamber. Don't worry, there are no monsters to fight, the only trial are the sliding block puzzles in the walls. You keep sliding blocks until the correct pattern is displayed. This puzzle may appear that it's using 4 blocks, but when you look behind you can see it's actually 8 blocks on a belt, and only one combination is correct. We're using this redstone block to detect it. When I press the button, it actually moves 2 sets of blocks using pairs of pistons. One set for the visible pattern, and one for the set containing the redstone block. Now later in the map there is another task involving selecting banner patterns. Behind this wall are 8 possible banner patterns, and I can select them by rotating this block in an item frame. Now using an item in a frame is a great way to have an 8-way combination because it's fast to change and doesn't require any bulky redstone. Using a redstone comparator from the back of the frame, we get a signal strength between 1 and 8 based on the orientation of the item in the frame. This is leading to command blocks which clone the banner pattern above each. As the power increases, the next command block is powered and triggered. At the end of the redstone dust line there is a redstone torch. This triggers the last command block when the power jumps from 8 back down to 1. Now to determine the correct banner has been selected, we just read the redstone dust power at the correct position along this line. My final feature I want to show you is this disappearing staircase. If I switch this lever, then it completely vanishes and turns into a corridor. You may have seen this trick before. It works on the simple basis that if you place a stair block and then one sideways in front, then it changes the appearance of the first stair. What looks like a simple wall is a series of stair blocks placed in this fashion. And if I power some pistons to push the stairs forward, then a staircase magically appears. Unfortunately for me, I wanted the staircase to magically disappear, and these visible sticky pistons give the game away. So here is my adapted version. When I power this on, the bottom piston pushes up this block, and this side sticky piston pushes both it and the stair block forwards. When I power it off, the piston retracts, pulling the full size block back, and the top piston is powered to push down the sticky piston. Finally, a short pulse is fired through this lower block to power the piston we've just moved, bringing the stair block back. Now we just need to repeat this to add more stairs. And to complete my disappearing staircase, I mirrored another set on the opposite side. Thank you for watching. There is one more area of this map that I intend to cover, Mort Village, so please subscribe if you want to be alerted when it's available. And please see the Fort and Manor videos if you haven't already. If you want to play this puzzle map for yourself, then the details are in the description. Goodbye.